Hello everyone, welcome back. And Today let's discuss the second assignment of Python. So I have started a series of Python where I will be taking an assignment and I will be working on it. So that I like my first assignment was for uh, checking the sum of the items in a list, any two numbers in a list, when added becomes the given number. Okay, so if you haven't seen that, please go through that video. Okay, so before I start with today's session, I will show you like what is the today's assignment about. So today the assignment is like this. So you have a list of intervals. Okay, you have a list of intervals which are given. So you have to write a function like anything check overlap which given a list of intervals like 2 4 5 7 3 9. So these are the list of intervals. Okay, so what the function will do, it will return whether any two intervals overlap. Okay, and boundary overlap do not count. So which means okay, so if I run this program, you will understand what is the requirement of the assignment. Okay, so let's say I want to have three intervals. So it will ask you enter the interval starts. Okay, so when does the interval start? So let's say one. Okay, one, three, six. Okay, interval ends. Okay, like the four, seven, 5. Okay, so you see interval are invalid because you see like 1 4 3 7 6 5. So 6 and 5 are invalid. Okay, I'll run it again because the start time of an interval should be less than the end time. Okay, that is the validity check. Okay, so let's say I will run it again. Okay, so 4 8 and then 10. Okay, so you see now I have given three intervals. So 2 4 is the first interval, 5 8 is the second interval, 6 10 is the third interval. So we have to write a function that will decide whether the any of these intervals overlap or not. Okay, for example, if I say 2 and 4 is the 2 from 2 to 4 is the first interval, and if the second interval is like 3 to 8, okay, so there is an overlap of these two intervals. So like that is the requirement. Okay, so you have to first of all understand the question. So like the question is you have to write a function which will check if any two intervals given a list of intervals overlap or not. Okay, so boundary overlap do not count means if it is 2 4 and then 4 to 8, so 4 and 4 do not count. Okay, so it should be overlapping. Okay, so this is the program I have written. Okay, so I can show you one more time. Like let's say 3. Okay, so you have to enter the start of the interval. So let's say 1, then 8, then 3. Okay, end of the intervals like 5 9 6. Okay, so you see this is the 1 5 8 9 and 3 6. So intervals overlap because you see 1 5 from 1 to 5 is one of the intervals, and then 3 to 6 is one of the intervals. So we have a overlapping in these two. Okay, so this is the question. Okay, so before we start understanding and writing the program, please let me introduce you to our channel Linux Unix AIX. So please subscribe before we proceed to keep on watching such tutorials. Thanks you. Okay, so let's start with the program. Okay, so I can write it afresh with you. Okay, so let's say new Python file. Okay, so it is a very like mathematical calculation and use of a list, so it does not require any particular module to import. Okay, so like check underscore overlap is the program name. Okay, fine. So what is the input? Input is you have to uh, accept the number of intervals first of all, because enter because we are going to take that intervals. Okay, after that I will store it into n, and then yeah, you have to convert it into integer because it may return a string. Okay, so for so now we will accept these many intervals. So for I in range 0 to n, we are going to accept the uh, intervals. Okay, so we'll first accept the start hour of interval, and then we'll accept the end hours of the interval. Okay, I would say input. Uh, so let's say I would just print the statement outside itself. Enter start hour of interval. Okay, to make it more human readable. Okay, fine. So input, and then I'm storing it into something like input one, anything, and then I'm converting it into um, int integer. Okay, yeah. So this is my input, and then I have to. Okay, so I will just store it somewhere so that hours start hours equal to blank is a list. Okay, and then I'll append it to start hours dot append inp. Correct? Fine. Similarly, I would do the same thing for end hours. So I'll just make it quick. I'll quickly paste it here. So I would say end. Okay, and then I would say end hours, end hour of the interval where when my interval ends. Okay, so yeah, so I would append it to the end hour list. Okay, cool. So now we have both the intervals. Okay, now like quickly I'll also check if the intervals entered are valid or not, because the start hour of the interval should not be less than so it should not be greater than the end hour of the interval, right? That is the basic sense. Okay, so what I will do, I will check if start hours of I, okay, is greater than or equal to end hours of index I. Then what I will say print invalid invalid intervals start hour can't be greater than or equal. I would just say cannot be greater than or equal to end hour. Like that is the basic check. Okay, fine. I would say exit because we won't continue. Okay, fine. So that's otherwise what I will do. I would say print print the print the you can print the intervals, that is not required, but you can print it. Okay, anyway, so to make it more understanding, like to make to understand like what are the intervals that I have entered, so you should print it. Okay, so I would say for I in range 0 to length of anything, you can take any one of the two list. Okay, so I would say print start hours um, start hours I, and then I would say what do you call end hour, right? I would say start hour, and then here like what I will do is start hours, and then I would print and hours also, correct? So let me check. Uh, so I would say concatenate. We'll give a comma and then I would say end hour, correct? And hours of I. Okay, that has to be a variable, right? So end hours of I. Okay, and then there is a separator which is like separator. You see if you don't give a separator by default it will print at the new line. But I don't want to be the intervals to be in the new line. That they have to be a separator like like this pipe. Okay, so let me try to accept and print the intervals and then we will do the final thing which is checking the overlap thing. Okay, so let me run this. Enter number of intervals 2 and then start hours so 1 3 end hours no 4 6. Okay, so you see 1 4 is my first interval and 3 and 6 is my second interval. Okay, so if I is it correct? So start hours 1 3 and hours is 4 6. So it makes sense. Okay. So basically I wanted to write in a single line instead of coming that can be done, like that's no big deal. That can be done. But then yeah, like that is the 1 4 and then the 3 and 6 should also come on the same line. Okay. So that is no big deal. That can be done. But then yeah, let's come back to the actual program, so which is checking if the two intervals overlap. Okay, so how do I do that? So I would have to go through the whole start hours. Okay, so for I, let's say j in range. Okay, so I have to go from 0 to length of start hours. Okay, and then I would say so I have to traverse through two so this will be a nested array. So k in range I would say 1. I would say why, I will tell you, because I will skip the first element and hours. Okay, so like that does not make any. I mean, you can take anything, start hours or end hours. So I would just wanted to the starting to be from 1 and anything. You can take anything. Start and length of this. Okay, so this is my for loop. Okay, so what I have to check uh, if like k is if k is greater than what will happen if k is greater than uh, what will happen is that if k is greater than start uh, okay if k is greater than what will happen if k is greater than j then and so it has to be like this. The start hour should not fall into the start hour of another interval, right? So I would take k is greater than start hours of j, you know, start hours of j. Okay, or you can also say like this: k is greater than j and k is but then I want to have it true because first I have already taken J. So J is Okay, so so k is my start. K is iterated from 1 to last. Okay, so k is greater than j. So j is my start hours, and then and k is less than what do you call end hours of j. Is it correct? Let me check 1 second. So I have iterated k from 1 to the last. Okay, so I would say then I have to compare k if k is greater than. So instead of j, I would say start hours of j. Okay, and then and k has to be less than end hours of j. Okay, so if it happens, then what I will say, I would say print intervals intervals overlap. Okay, and I can exit because I have to check only one occurrence if any two intervals overlap. Okay, so I would not continue more. So else if I don't find in that one, I would go ahead in the next interval and I would say else continue. Okay, and at the end of it I can print like print intervals intervals don't don't overlap. Okay, so that will be the last thing because if intervals overlap, I would get the answer here and I will exit the program. But if it keep on checking and if it does not find any intervals overlapping, so I would print this intervals do not overlap. Okay, so that is the core logic. So let me check if it works. Okay, so yeah, so like I would say number of intervals, let's say three into start hours, one, 3, 6, 4, 7, 9. Okay, so you see intervals overlap because one to four is the first interval, and then three is the overlapping because three comes in between one and four. Okay, let me try again because we have to make sure that it works perfectly under all circumstances. Okay, so you see now here, intervals are invalid because 1, 5 is my first, 3 and 1. We cannot be like that. Okay, so yeah, cannot be like that. Number of intervals, let's say 3, start hour 5 to 6, 7 to 12, and then like 4 to 8. Okay, so now what is happening? 2 to 12, 6 to 4. Okay, again here also uh, it's not happening because it's invalid. So I'll try it again. So 3. So start hours, let's say 1, 5, 1, 5, 9, and then 3, 6, 12. So I have three intervals 1, 3, 5, 6, and 9, 12. So they do not overlap. Okay, let me try one more time because to check the uh, integrity of program. So two, let's say two intervals. So one is the start hour, and then 5 is again the second start hour. Then the end hour is 5, and then 6. Okay. So you see 1, 5 is my first, and second is 5, 6. Intervals do not overlap. Boundaries do not count because 5 and 5 are equal, but then yeah, it is not overlapping. Okay. So this is the answer of the program, the requirement, and see that this is the core logic. So what I am basically doing is I am checking if the so here I was telling why do I start from 1 because see I have already I'm at 0, so my start hour is being iterated from 0 to the end. So I will skip the first interval and I will compare it with the second interval because I am comparing the start hour of first interval with the rest of the uh, intervals. Okay, so I would start from 1 in the second array. So I would compare if k it comes fall in between the start hour and the end hour of j. Okay, so if that happens, intervals overlap, and I get the answer, I will exit. Okay, if you do not exit here, it will keep on checking, and even if there are more than one overlap, it will print more than once. Okay, so like please watch this tutorial entirely, and have any questions. If you have any questions, please comment and share with your friends if you find it useful. So this was a question. It was an assignment asked in a multinational company. So one of my friends asked about this. So was for that. Okay. So please share with your friends and like and share the channel. Thank you.